everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to share my top 10 favorite coloring books of 2022. In my last video I shared my top 10 favorite coloring supplies of 2022. If you've not yet seen that one, I will link that in the upper right hand corner so that you can go and check it out. If you've been watching my channel for quite a while and you've seen my video from last year, you may see some of the same coloring books mentioned in this video, and that's because my favorite coloring books don't always change from year to year. There will be a few new ones. A couple of them were even released this year. I will also have a couple honorable mentions. And another thing I usually do in these videos is I do talk about the paper in each one of the books. I'll compare the paper from one book to another book in some cases, and I will also share with you which pencils I have found to work best in each one of the books. If you check the description box down below, you'll find links down there to my Facebook group, my email list, my Etsy shop, and my Patreon if you would like to support me there. I also now have channel membership. You can find more information about that by clicking the join button down below. Now, I do want to mention before we start that these books are not necessarily in any order, except for probably this first one. This is Johanna Basford's World of Flowers. This has been my favorite coloring book for years now, and it will always be my favorite coloring book. I have probably done the most coloring in this coloring book over any other coloring book. I have probably also done the most tutorials on my channel using this coloring book. Lots of coloring flowers and adding highlights and bringing out my stickles and all of that. I absolutely love this coloring book. So in this video, I'll just go ahead and flip through and show you some of the pages because I know most of you are probably familiar with most of the pages in a lot of these coloring books. So as I flip through here, you'll probably see a few little pieces like this where I'm testing out pencils. I believe this one was from a coloring class that I was teaching on how to create more depth. But the one thing I do love about this book is the paper. The paper is not a bright white, but it is still very nice. So I just grabbed a coloring book that I had laying over here to the side that I've been coloring in, and I just wanted to show you the difference in the paper. This paper in the Amazon book is a little bit of a brighter white, but I love how my pencils lay down on this paper. I especially love my Prismacolors, and this page right here, I have tested out a lot of different pencils. The Black Widows work absolutely wonderful in this book. This is Black Widows. This here is Black Widows. They were both tutorials on my channel. This is the Arteza pencils. I absolutely love the Arteza pencils, but I do not like the way that they go down in this book. I believe this one here is Crayolas. I didn't like the way that they went down in this book either. But if you really want to enjoy this book or any of the Johanna Basford books that have the same paper as this one, as we all know, she just changed the paper in her most recent release. But all the books before that, if you want to have a really enjoyable experience coloring in these books, I would recommend the Black Widows or the Prismacolors or your Spear Farbin. They work really, really wonderfully in this book. There was something I actually colored in this book with the Spear Farbin colored pencils, and I will show you that as soon as I get to it. I believe these were Prismacolors. I started this page in the hospital when my husband had gotten really sick and was in the hospital with pneumonia, and I brought my coloring books to color, and I just never got around to finishing it. But a lot of these pages in this book that you see are just going to be pages that may have been a color along. I believe this was a color along, or at least parts of it were. And then some of these are where I tested out pencils. I believe this was the Brutfin or Macarons, either that or the pastel tints, mixing them with Prismacolors. This was a tutorial on my channel using Prismacolors. I absolutely love how that turned out. That is actually one of my most popular videos, coloring leaves, on my channel. I'll link that in the upper right hand corner. These were also tutorials. This one was another very popular video on my channel. But as you can see, the artwork is just nothing but flowers. So if you like coloring flowers, you will absolutely love this book. And then here is the page where I colored some bugs, and I was just testing out different pencils. This one is the Pablos. If you have the Caran d'Ache Pablos, they work beautifully in this book as well. This one is Polychromos. I didn't really care for how they went down in this book. You can see here on the legs. I don't know if you can see that. I'll try to zoom it in when I'm editing, but there were a lot of areas on the legs where I could not get them to blend the way that I wanted them to. But then this one here with the Spearfarben, I absolutely love those in this book. They go down like a dream on this paper. This one was a color along that we did here on my channel. I'll try to link that in the upper right hand corner if I can. This one is just Prismacolors and lots of glitter. And those of you that have been following me for quite some time, you know that I always use stickles for glitter. And then I believe the yellow in the background is the Mungio pastels, which are absolutely wonderful if you cannot afford something like pan pastels. But this was a limited color palette, and I really love doing limited color palettes. I really need to go back to that because I feel like my pages always turn out better when I use a limited amount of pencils. But that is Johanna Basford's World of Flowers, and this is my all-time ever favorite coloring book. I absolutely love it. I don't think that any other coloring book will ever top this one, honestly. So as I said earlier, the coloring books in this video are not in any particular order, but that one is in order because that will always be my number one. Now, as I said, I am going to have a couple honorable mentions in this video. This is another one of my absolute favorite coloring books, and the reason being is because this is the very first coloring book that I ever got when I started my coloring journey. But this book is absolutely beautiful. It's got some really beautiful artwork. Again, the paper is not a bright white paper. It's more of a manila color, I guess is the right word to use for this. But the images in here are really, really beautiful. You're gonna have like a lot of her other books where you have these wallpaper type pages. This one just has a bunch of bugs. I believe this here was part of a tutorial on my channel, and I'm not even sure I remember exactly what for. But these two pages here, these were the absolute first pages I ever colored. I know for sure this one is Prismacolors. I believe what I did is I went online to look for other pages like this. I just used other people's examples and looked at the colors and chose my colors that way, because when I was a beginner, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to choose colors or anything like that, but I think I did a pretty good job putting the colors together. But I believe this was the second page I colored. I think I colored this one first. This was done with a set of pencils that I picked up in Hobby Lobby, and they were my very first colored pencils that I bought when I first started coloring. But they were super cheap, and it was just a small pack of pencils, so I didn't have that many choices of what colors to put together or anything like that. I didn't even know how to blend, but I'm pretty sure this was the first page I colored, and then I had gotten Prismacolors and I colored this. But look how gorgeous some of the images are in this book. That is so, so pretty. But that is Johanna Basford's Secret Garden, and that one just holds a really special place in my heart just because those are a couple of my very first coloring pages that I ever colored when I first found this hobby. And I still remember to this day going in Barnes & Noble and being so excited to find this coloring book and to bring it home and go to Hobby Lobby and get some pencils and start coloring. Number 2 on my list is Johanna's brand new release, Rooms of Wonder. I have really come to love this coloring book, and I know it was a big thing in the beginning when this coloring book was released in the US because she had to use different paper. But let me tell y'all, I really love the paper. It's the same paper that's in the Kirby Rosanis books. I love the paper in those books. And I just think the artwork in this book is really beautiful. I absolutely love it. All the little teeny tiny things that you have to color. I love that the paper is now a bright white, and I will show you this paper compared to World of Flowers. But here's World of Flowers, and you can see the difference in the color. So this one is just more of an off-white, and this one is a bright white. But I love the bright white paper, y'all. And I just love this book, especially this page right here. We have been using this page in some of my coloring classes that I've been teaching recently, because there are so many things where you just color one teeny tiny little individual thing. And so I will print something off on this page and then I will demonstrate, and it's made it really easy just for me to show some techniques on some of the images on this page, and it's not overwhelming for the person that is taking the coloring class. And if you're a beginner, pages like this are absolutely wonderful because, like I said, said, they're not overwhelming. You could sit down, you can color just one thing in a very short time. Like for instance, this boot right here is big enough to practice your blending skills because it does have enough open space on it. And some of these are a lot of fun to even get out your fine liners or other mediums. You've got this beaded necklace here, and this would be a lot of fun to get your gold gel pens, or if you wanted to make them look like they were pearls, you can grab your white Posca and you can color them all in white and then do a background so that the white really stood out. But I just love this book because I love the artwork in this book, and I absolutely love the paper, and it has very quickly become a new favorite of mine, right along with World of Flowers. And then of course we still have flowers in this book, so I absolutely love that. And I plan on doing more tutorials in this book and bringing those to my channel. This was another tutorial I did here on my channel, and I believe I was testing out polychromos. I don't remember what the video was about, honestly. I'll link it in the upper right hand corner if I can find it. But I love the way that that turned out, and I do want to come back and color all the rest of these things on this page. If I could remember exactly what colors I used on here, I have to go back and watch the video and see, because I have recently cleaned up my entire desk and I do not have pencils laying all over the place anymore. This is another page I was working on, and I'm just stumped on this one now because I don't know what to do with the vanity, but I am going to come back and finish this. Here's another page where it just has a bunch of very quick colors and lots of bottles. I love the bottles because you could practice making those look see-through. I love these little nail polishes right here. I just love pages like this. So you're going to see that there is lots and lots of pages like that. If you want to practice coloring clothing and fabrics or materials, you can do it here on this page. But books like this are just wonderful. Here's another page with a bunch of jars, and they are super pretty. This was another tutorial that I did on my channel, but I have loved using this book so far for tutorials just because it has all those pages with the little tiny objects on it. Number 3 is my romantic country book, The First Tale, and this book is also a favorite of mine because this one has a very close place in my heart, because this, again, just like Secret Garden, was one of the very first coloring books I ever had. And y'all, if you don't have this coloring book, you definitely need this one in your collection. There's so much fantasy like artwork in here. It's actually a story. There is a story in the back of the book, and it actually goes in chapters, and I love that about this book. This is a really cute little map of all of the different places. And again, in this book, the paper is more of an off-white. It has a very little bit of tooth. It is a smoother paper. I have found that I like my Prismacolors in this book and my polychromos in this book. But the polychromos are now one of my absolute favorite coloring supplies. I never ever thought that would happen. I've always been a Prisma girl. But they have very quickly become a favorite. This one here was actually done with Black Widows, and I forgot they do also work very well in this book. This I did a few years ago, and I still feel like I was very much a beginner. I can look at it and see a whole bunch of things already that I would have changed. But it's very important to always keep your first colored pages so that you can go back and you can compare, or even get a second copy of the same book. I have quite a few copies of this book, but I like to have a second copy of the book so that I can color the same page again later. And I plan on doing that here very soon because I would like to see the difference in what I can color now as opposed to what I colored then. But this was a tutorial on my channel that I did where I showed how to color grass and make it realistic looking. But I just really love this book. This is something that I colored very recently using some of my color combinations that I shared in a video last month. And then this is a page that I colored quite a few years ago. But let me go ahead and just flip through the rest of this just so y'all could see. And you'll probably see a couple things that have been colored just because they were probably tutorials on my channel. This is the page I was using for my series on how to improve your coloring skills. So there is just so much going on this page. It was used as an example for many different tutorials. So there's really no rhyme or reason to that page. And then that's a page I started that I never finished. That is Romantic Country, and this is The First Tale. And then I do have an honorable mention This is the second tale, also romantic country, but I didn't get this book until much later after I had the first tale. But this book is going to be just very whimsical again. It's very fantasy-like. It's just like the other one. The paper also is the same as in the last book, where it's more of an off-white, but the same pencils still apply in this book, the Black Widows, the Polychromos, and the Prismacolors, because the paper is the same as in the first tale. Again, the paper is very much smoother, and I find that my Polychromos work a lot better when I am working on paper that is smoother. But look at this page with all the keys. If you want to practice coloring different golds or tarnished golds, bright golds, even silver or bronze, this would be a really great page to practice on. But again, this is one of those books that does have the full pages that you can color, but then it also does have pages like with the keys where you will find different individual items that you can color. But I'm not going to do a full flip through. You get the idea of what kind of artwork is in these books, but I do also love this one, so I wanted to throw it in here as an honorable mention. And there is also a third tale, but I don't think the third tale is available to be able to get on Amazon anymore. I'm not sure exactly where you can find it. Number 4 is Magical Dawn by Hannah Carlson. This is my absolute favorite book that Hannah Carlson has ever put out. I absolutely love working in this book, and it's the one that I have used the most, but there's just so many beautiful bottles in this book to color, and I believe there are some gemstones as well, and then you've got dragonflies, and there's just so much in this book. So already we see lots of gemstones, and I just recently did a tutorial where I showed how to color gemstones, and they are just so fun to color. But there's lots of flowers in this book. I feel like this particular book by Hannah Carlson has just a little bit of everything in it. But the paper is more of an off-white again. So I'll go ahead and grab this book again and just show you the difference. This is the Amazon paper, which is a much brighter white, and you can see that there is a very big difference in the paper. Here is World of Flowers. And I wanted to show you the comparison between this one and Magical Dawn, because Magical Dawn is even more of an off-white than World of Flowers. So here's another one where I was just practicing some different effects on a gemstone, and I really didn't like the way that that one turned out. I tried quite a few different things, came back and erased, and came back and did something different, and I don't know. Now that I'm looking at it, I guess it looks okay, but I've done better ones. But as far as pencils in this book, I have come to recently find out that the Polychromos work absolutely beautifully in these books. I love my Polychromos in this book. And the only reason I discovered that was because somebody in my Facebook group had mentioned to try your Polychromos in Hannah Carlson's books. And I did, and I was just like, wow. This here was a color along on my channel, and I really enjoy doing this one. I showed how to color bottles in this one. I showed how to create liquid that was not already there, along with some little bubbles to make it look like the bubbles were going up the side. And then this one here, I showed how to do it again where the bottle was tipped over. But this book is really great because you can use many different mediums in this book. I have really thrown a lot of stuff at the pages in this book, including water, and the paper holds up pretty well. This was another one I did before I started my YouTube channel, when I really feel like I was starting to get a whole lot better at coloring. I think this was the page that really did it for me and made me realize that I really, really loved doing this hobby. And this is also when I first got my stickles and started getting much more creative. And I also used pastels in the background, which I had never done before, but I love the way that this one turned out. But on this page, I have used many different mediums. There's glitter on this page. I believe that there may be acrylic paint on this page. There's stickles on this page, Prismacolors, and I can't remember what else, but parts of it were a tutorial. Oh, the background was done with watercolors. That was definitely a tutorial, but I love the way this is turning out. But I've been so busy because of the holidays. I really just need to come back and finish this one up. But that is Hannah Carlson's Magical Dawn. This has very quickly, over the last couple of years, really become my favorite. I find that when I want to color Hannah Carlson artwork, I always pull out this book. And I have all of her books, but for some reason, this is the one I always go for. And my number 5, which has become a favorite this year, is Grazia Salvo's Wild Soul. Y'all, I love this book so much. So this is just the first page here, and it's got a list of the artwork. So each page does actually have a name, and I believe that they're just named by the animal that you're going to color on the page. If you want to color animals and portraits, you will absolutely love this book. This is the page here that I want to color next. I just really want to color that adorable little kitten, and I think the woman on this artwork is just really beautiful. I love her freckles, but I want to color this one so bad. And then you've got the flowers. You all know how much I love coloring flowers, but I really want to color this one, and I think I want to color it with my luminance. But anytime I color in this book, I always scan the image into my computer and then I print it on my own paper. But the images in this book are just so fun to color, and I love coloring them on either the colored pencil paper or the toned tan paper by Strathmore. I love both of those papers, and I believe the last two I colored in this book, those were the two papers that I used. But when I get to that image, I will show you what I have colored, but one of them was a color along here on my channel. But look at the images in this book, how beautiful they are. But if you're choosing your own paper, you can really choose the pencils that work best on whatever paper you are printing on. I will mention though that this book is much longer than your regular Amazon book. I did order this one on Amazon, and it does say Amazon softcover edition on here. She does have an Etsy shop where you can order all of her books and her artwork. But this is a regular Amazon book, and I will lay this one on top and just show you the difference. But if I lay it right here, you can see how much longer this book is, and you can see that this one is just a little bit wider. As far as printing them on your own paper, I think that would really all depend on the image. A little bit of it might get cut off, but what I have done is I've just resized it on my computer so that I can color the image on an 8x10 sheet of paper. But I did color this one. If you've been watching my channel for quite some time, you have probably seen this one. But here's what it looks like colored, and I used Holbeins on this one, and I just love my Holbeins on this paper. So I took it out of the plastic so that you all can see, but I like putting all my finished coloring pages in a plastic sleeve. These are the plastic sleeves that I use. I just get them on Amazon, and then I put them into a binder. But this is what the final colored image looks like on the toned tan paper, and this is what it looks like before it was colored. But look at the difference. And if you just take the image, print it on the toned tan paper, and add color to it, what a difference. What an absolute difference. She just really came to life. But I just really love this book. And this is the other one that I printed, and this one was really easy to print on my own paper because you could see that a lot of the white at the top of the page was not used. And this is what the finished image looks like once I have printed it on the colored pencil paper. But I believe most of this was done with Prismacolors. The background was done with Pan Pastels. That was a background tutorial, but the whole color along is on my channel. I'll link it in the upper right hand corner for you so that you can easily find it. But look at the difference once you add color to it. They just really come to life. I just love working with grayscale. But the images in here are just really beautiful, and I love the color of the grayscale that's in here. This is the toned tan paper by Strathmore. This is the 9x12. But if you are using this paper to print out your coloring pages, you do need to use a paper cutter and cut it down to 8.5x11 so that you can get it through your printer. And this is Grazia Salvo's Flowers and Gems. This is an honorable mention because this has been one of my favorites for a very long time, but I have come to like Wild Soul even more than this coloring book this year, so that is why that one is number 5. I ordered this on Amazon. The paper is absolutely wonderful. So in some areas the grayscale is a little bit darker, but your pencils do very nicely go over the darker grayscale. I have not had an issue. Usually I don't like grayscale that is really super dark, but this one I really don't mind because the images are just really beautiful. This one here, it is very dark, so I probably wouldn't color this one, but there's a lot of images in here where the grayscale is more on the gray side. This one is absolutely beautiful, but I love this book because the paper is wonderful. It is a very toothy paper. The paper is on the thicker side. And then the pages do have the perforations on them. So if you want to take the pages out of the book and put them into a plastic sleeve like I showed you earlier and then put them in a binder, you can do that. This is one that I finished. I absolutely love it. And there's probably a couple in here that I was working on. I know there's one that I didn't get around to finishing, but I just wanted to show you some of the images in here because this book is really beautiful. But I would think that any pencil would probably work well in this book. This paper is toothier, like I said. It is definitely made for colored pencils. This image here is absolutely beautiful. This is one that I was working on and I was using luminance pencils here. I stopped working on it because I put my pencils away and I have no idea what colors I was using for her dress. So for me to go back and figure it out, I'm really gonna have to do some matching up of pencils because I really want to be able to finish this. But I need to finish the flowers. Of course, the flowers, if I wanted to, could be different colors, but I need to figure out what I did with the dress so I can come back and I can color it. Because I really love how this one is turning out. But I absolutely love this book. This has been one of my favorites for a very long time. But for this video, it's an honorable mention because I feel like Wild Soul has just jumped in front of this one. Number 6 is Botanicum by Maria Trolle. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, y'all know that I love this coloring book. And again, the paper in this coloring book is going to be more of an off-white. And I tend to think now that since this is from the same publisher as the Hannah Carlson books, I feel like this paper is the same as the paper in the Hannah Carlson books. I was actually going to call the publisher and ask, and I never did, but I still do want to do that. But you can see that her artwork is going to be a lot of flowers. We have a lot of butterflies, and the pencils that work best in this book, or that I really enjoy in this book, are my 120 square Brute Fooners. My Prismacolors work beautifully on this paper. I have not yet used the Polychromos in this book, but I think that they would probably work beautifully because I really do think this is the same paper as in the Hannah Carlson books, but I am definitely going to have to check on that. I also love the Crayolas in these books, but the artwork is just beautiful and it's so whimsical. You've got lots of flowers and, like I said, butterflies. You've got some little animals. Here we have some otters and some little fish. But I just really love this book. Oh, and the other pencils that work wonderfully in this book are the Derwent Inktense. This was a tutorial that I did on my channel for Derwent Inktense probably more than a year ago, but I love the way that they work in this book. The other pencils that work beautifully in this book are Crayolas. And my next book that I'm going to show you is also a Maria Trolle book because I have 2 of her books that are my favorites. The first one is Botanicum and the next one is Nightfall. Now, I think that I probably like Nightfall a little bit better, but Botanicum this year has very quickly become a favorite. This one has been my favorite for quite a while. I have done a few different tutorials in this book on my channel, and I believe this is the book that I used my 120 Brute Fooners when I did a question and answer, and also the Crayolas. I believe this was Crayolas mixed with Prismacolors, and I was just testing some things out. This was done with the Arteza 120 set. This was a tutorial I did on my channel where I was showing you how to lay down your highlights and your shadows and texture and all of that. But this is one of the most popular videos that I've ever done on my channel. I'll try to link that one in the upper right hand corner if I can. This one was done with the 120 Brute Fooners, and y'all, let me tell you, they lay down beautifully in this book. But I think out of all the Maria Trolle books, this is the one that I have colored in most, and I have used the most different sets of pencils in this book. This butterfly here was done with Crayolas. That is another tutorial on my channel. So Crayolas, and I see that I've used a little bit of stickles, but I just really love this book, and there's a little bit of something for everyone in this book. You've got animals, you've got flowers, you've got butterflies, you've got dragonflies. There's just a little bit of everything in this book. Now, I do have an honorable mention by Maria Trolle. And I did not have this book, and a wonderful subscriber sent it to me. I thought that I had this book, and I was online and I was looking at a flip through on someone's channel. I went to my cabinet and I was like, wait a second. I really, really love that book, and I don't have that book. So I had it on my wish list and a wonderful subscriber sent it to me, but I wanted to add this one as an honorable mention because look how beautiful the images in here are. And after I received this and I went through and started flipping through some of the pages, I was like, wow. And I am going to definitely start coloring in this one in 2023. I've not colored in it yet, but I wanted to add it here as an honorable mention because I just really loved the images in this book. Now, the one thing about the Maria Trolle books is they are double-sided, so you do have images on both sides. But I have always used my Derwent Inktense, and I've not ever had an issue with it going to the other side. But I would suggest if you have one of the Maria Trolle books and you really love the images, then I would suggest having a second copy. And I do have a second copy of many of her books, because I just really love the Maria Trolle books. I love all the different mediums I can use on the pages. I love that so many of the different pencils work beautifully on the paper in this book. I just really love her artwork. Oh my gosh, look at these sunflowers. I bet these would look beautiful once you've colored them in, especially with that black background. Now, that's the one thing you will notice about the Maria Trolle books. You're going to have a few pages scattered throughout where you have the black background. Here's another one. But when you add a black background to bright colors, it really makes them pop. So some of those pages would probably be really cool to color using some of your neon colors, maybe in your Prismacolor set, or if you have another individual neon color set. I know that Crayola has one set, I can't remember what it's called, and I don't have it, but it is a set that just has neon colors in it. In Maria Trolle's books, usually when you go to the back of the book, you will have a whole glossary of the animals and the plants, and it usually tells you on each page what the animal and the plant is. And that is not in this book. Oh my goodness. So if you're unfamiliar with Maria Trolle books, let me go ahead and grab one of my other ones and I'll show you what I mean. So this one is Nightfall. If you come to the back of the book, you have a whole plant register here. And here is Botanicum. And in this one, we have an insect register along with the plant register, which is one of my favorite things about these books. But I absolutely love that because I just go look up the scientific name. And it really helps me to be able to color the image on that page exactly the way that it should be colored. And I don't know why it's not in the back of this one. That is very, very strange. But I love the artwork in this book, and I just wanted to add it in here as an honorable mention. So that is Twilight Garden by Maria Trolle. Okay, y'all, I believe we are on number 8. And this is Fairies 3 Grayscale Coloring Book by Christine Karen. And this one is an Amazon printed book. So the paper is going to be a brighter white. And in all of her books, she does have a list of all of the images that are in the book. And in this one, it looks like she has some bonus images as well. But all of the pages do have a title. But I love Christine Karen's books because I love her grayscale and I love her artwork. But I have never colored any of her line art images. All of her books do come in line art and grayscale, and I usually go for the grayscale images because I just love coloring grayscale. And if you're a beginner, grayscale makes it so much easier because you know exactly where to lay your darker colors and your lighter colors. Now, when it comes to the Christine Karen books, I have not colored actually in the books often. I have before in one of her other books that I have. But over the last, I would say, year and a half or so, I have always printed the image out onto my own paper. The last one that I colored, or actually the last few that I've colored, I have printed them out onto the tone tan paper because, again, I feel like grayscale looks really, really beautiful once you add color to it on top of the tone tan paper, because it just really makes all of those colors pop that much more. Here's one that I just recently colored. And again, I did print it out onto the tone tan paper, but look at the difference once you print it on the tone tan paper and then you add color to it. But this was done with Holbeins. Again, like I said, I love my Holbeins on the tone tan paper. It is a perfect paper pencil match. And the Holbeins have so many beautiful light colors that you could just really make those highlights pop and stand out, especially on the tone tan paper. But I just feel like the images in here are really, really beautiful. And I love Christine Karen's artwork. The pages in here are on one side, so if you wanted to color in the book, even if you wanted to use markers, a lot of people use alcohol markers on grayscale, but even if you wanted to use markers, you could just slide something behind the page and you wouldn't have to worry about it going through. Now this is Fairy and Fantasy, also by Christine Karen, and this is an honorable mention. This may have been one of my favorites last year or even the year before. I really don't remember. Like I said, I didn't go back and watch that video, but this book is just absolutely beautiful and has some gorgeous images in it as well. Again, it has all of the names of each one of the pages. This one too has some bonus artwork in it, but the images in this one are really beautiful as well. I think I just recently printed this one out because I wanted to color it. This one I did color, and there were quite a few tutorials on my channel using this page. Again, I believe that it was printed out on the tone tan paper, and y'all are probably seeing a theme here and realizing that that is probably my favorite paper to print on. But this is my other favorite of hers. She does have quite a few books that are out, but these are the two that have my favorite images in them. Look how beautiful this is. This one here is gorgeous as well. Look how cute, the little tiny dragon. But I just love the images in here, and I just had to add this one in as an honorable mention. This one is absolutely beautiful as well. This one is called Fairy Tale Forest. So you will notice that she does have the names of each one of the images down here in the bottom, and then she does have the name of the book, and then it just says Christine Karen, but that is at the bottom. So if you're printing your images out, you will always be able to remember exactly what book they came from. Look how gorgeous that is. I've seen so many people color this image here. This one's called Lilies and Pearls. Some of the finished coloring pages I've seen for this one are absolutely beautiful, with all of the beading around her neck and down her chest and everything, and over here on her arm and in her hair. That's just one of the most beautiful images. And then on the back of all her books, she does have all of the images that are inside of the book. But that is Fairy and Fantasy Grayscale Coloring Book. And so this was her first Fairy and Fantasy that she came out with, and I absolutely love this series. This book was released this year, and this has very quickly become one of my favorites. This one is by Deborah Muller, and it is called Bloom. This one is an Amazon printed book, but she does also have an Etsy shop where you could purchase her books in PDF form and print them out on any paper that you'd like to. But the images in here are just so beautiful. I mean, look at this one. If you want to color hair and practice coloring skin tones, here we have a beautiful unicorn with the girl. You're going to find lots of flowers in this book, as well as the portraits. And all of her girls always usually have very expressive looks on their faces. And that is the one thing I love about Deborah Muller's artwork. Now this one is one that I did color. And again, I did print it on the tone tan paper. This one was done with Holbeins again. And I absolutely love it. I love her hair, how I did it in purple. And then as I came down here towards the end of the braids, I made them more of a pink. But I absolutely love this, and I just think it turned out really, really nice. But you could see the difference between what it looks like once it's been colored and what it looks like before it's been colored. But the Amazon books are one-sided, so if you want to use other mediums, you definitely can. But like I said, she does have an Etsy shop where you can purchase her images in PDF and print them on any paper you want. But I just love all the images in here. She's got lots of girls with different expressions on their faces and beautiful hair and flowers. But this was one of my favorites that she released this year. But that was Bloom Flower Girl Portraits by Deborah Muller. And then my number 10 was also by Deborah Muller. This is Adorned Fairy Hair 2. She does have a first version of this one, which is Fairy Hair 1. But this book I absolutely love, because this book was another one that really started me on my coloring journey and made me realize that I really do love to color. But the images in here are going to be all portraits, and they are a little bit different, but Like the title says, you are going to see lots of hair in this book. But this is my number 10 because this book just has a very special place in my heart. All of these images that you're going to see colored in this book are from when I first started my coloring journey. And so I do like pulling out this book and reflecting and looking back on how I used to color and how I color now. But it makes it really nice when you can just go back and look at what you colored from years before and focus on the differences and how far you've come and all of the things that you've learned along the way. But I just love the images in here. This one was actually one that I did a video on because I came back and I redid the skin from what it was when I first did it. I'm going to go ahead and link this video in the upper right hand corner. It was called Then and Now or something like that. I can't remember exactly. It did look very different in the video before I colored the skin. It looked the way that I had colored skin as a beginner. And then I did come back and go over it again, but I was still able to come back and add more layers to this paper. So it just goes to show that the Amazon paper, even though it does get so much hate in the coloring community, it is really not all that bad, because I was able to come back and apply all the more layers that I needed to really enhance that skin. But it's always nice to keep things like that so that you can remember how far you've come. And this book just really has a special place in my heart, and that's why it is number 10 on this list. But this is another one I colored quite a long time ago that I really do want to come back and just finish these flowers here up at the top, and then I do want to add a background. But I think I already did come back on this one and try to improve upon the skin. And I do love how the bird turned out and the colors that I used. Those are colors that I wouldn't generally use together, the purples and the reds and the yellows, but it came together and looks really pretty. But you can see that this book is just going to have lots of portraits in it, lots of hair. You do have some flowers, and the images are just very different than what you're going to find in other coloring books. And that is one of the things that I really love about Deborah Muller and why she stands out from other artists, because her artwork is just different. It's not really like anyone else's. It just really stands out to me. I do have an honorable mention for Deborah Muller. This one is Fairy Wedding, and I really just wanted to show you all this book because this book has some beautiful images in it. Again, this book is Amazon printed, and it is going to be a brighter white. Now, if you are coloring straight on the Amazon printed books, Prismacolors work wonderfully, and Castle Arts also work absolutely wonderful right in the Amazon books on the Amazon paper. But look at these images, how beautiful they are. I just could not get over some of the artwork in this book when I first saw it and flipped through. This is just a little bit different than some of her other books, but look at the hair, how gorgeous it is. And that's the one thing you will notice with Deborah Muller books is she has so many different hairstyles, and you can really put together so many different color combinations for her hair. I mean, look at this. Look at the hair, how puffy and just fly away it looks in this one here. And here's another one just like that, but a bigger image. And her clothing is also always so creative and different than most other books you're going to find from other artists. But I just loved this book. I thought the images were very different and unique. And where else are you going to find a book called Fairy Wedding? I mean, come on. So it's all fairies, and they're all in wedding dresses or some kind of wedding attire. And it's just a really gorgeous book. But I just wanted to be able to share that one with you. I mean, look at her outfit. Oh my gosh. Now, who is going to wear that to a wedding with all of your skin exposed like that? But that is just the creativeness that you're going to find in the Deborah Muller books. I just absolutely love it. I just really, really love it. And look how gorgeous this girl is. Oh my goodness, look at the butterflies in her hair. I love when she adds the butterflies to the hair. But lots of fairy wings to color in there because it's all fairies. They're all getting ready for weddings. Lots of really cool dresses and very different creative wedding attire. And of course, lots of flowers. I just think that book is really beautiful. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I really enjoyed sharing my favorite top 10 coloring books for 2022, along with the honorable mentions. And I hope that sharing some of the pencils that I use in some of these different coloring books really helped you to find your perfect paper pencil match. Everything that you've seen in this video I will have linked in the description box down below. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Happy coloring. Bye.